Jordan, thank you very much for coming to Courage.media. We are meeting here at ARC, the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship that you pioneered. And of course, my first question to you is, how well is it doing?
Well, we have 4,200 people here instead of the 13 or 1,400 we had a little more than a year ago. So that's very good. We have a better slate of speakers, I think, this time than we did the first time, which is really something because we had a very good slate of speakers the first time. And people are very inclined to come and speak. And these are all people who have many other opportunities to occupy their time. And so the fact that people will come here voluntarily and free of charge indicates their interest in the topic at hand and their willingness to communicate or to participate. And then we have people from 90 countries, and many of them spent a lot of time and effort getting here. So that's all very good and measurable in terms of progress, I would say. And then our aim is getting better. We have our principles established, and they've expanded slightly in the last year because we added a area of investigation or another plateau of principle dealing with digital identity, and that seemed to be good. We've come to a real consensus on what our main principles are and why. And as long as we abide by those principles and we lay out a positive vision of the future, we get almost no pushback, no protest, and either neutral or positive handling from the press. If we deviate from that and become political, if our speakers become critical or partisan, the audience is agitated and the level of public interest rapidly declines. But if the political people that we've invited speak philosophically and they offer a positive vision, then the public is welcoming, and the social media attention is also expansive and widespread. So we're also starting to figure out exactly how we have to communicate to keep people's faith in place and hope alive. And that's working very well, I would say. So
something else that's working very well that I am seeing is the networking capacity. People coming here, convening, meeting, exchanging ideas, setting up their own little, shops. This is really wonderful to see.
Well, one of the principles that we hope to abide by is this principle of subsidiarity. We don't want to use force or compulsion or fear in our messaging. So no apocalyptic doom mongering, which is of course very entertaining but unnecessary. And we do believe, and I think it's genuine, that top-down utopian central planning is a very bad idea, regardless of its hypothetical motivation. So then what are we calling people together for? And we are calling them together for the purpose you just described. 3,000 of the tickets this year were invitational, 1,000 were public. We wanted to invite people who already had established a track record of responsible and productive conduct. And if you bring 3,000 of those people together with some wild cards and a number of young people, then you hopefully do encourage the kind of communication that produces productive engagement. And what makes people successful? It helps to be smart. It's very useful to be hardworking. Apart from that, it's very useful to have a broad social connection system. And one of the advantages to a conference like this is the opportunity to meet 100 people in 3 days who you could do interesting and worthwhile things with and who would be inclined to follow up with their promises. And so I think that's gone extremely well.
My husband and I have been going to a lot of conferences over the last many years, at least 2 decades in my case. And I'm always left when I go to other conferences with just how old the participants are. And I'm really amazed and encouraged by just how young this population is that have chosen to come to ARC. There are some gray-haired people like me, but there are also really young people in their late 20s, in their mid-20s, in their early 20s, in their late teens. That's wonderful.
Yeah, well, that was a conscious decision too. We developed a scholarship program, I suppose, and brought about 1,000 young people here who weren't financially set to manage the trip on their own by and large. And we identified people who, like their elder peers, you might say, had started to provide some evidence of their commitment. And that's, as you noted, rare but incredibly necessary. There isn't anything more useful that you can do, all things considered, than identify young people with immense possibility and then also have them associate with people who are already in established positions. You get a synergy there that's, well, it's very good for the young people because they have mentors, and it's very heartening for the older people because they can see that their work has the possibility of continuing and expanding. So yeah, that's a good deal for everyone.
Finally, the numbers. Last year, something like 1,500. This year, 4,150 people. Yep. What do you expect next year? And then what do you expect in the next 5 years? And what do you expect in the next 10 years? Do you think ARC will even be necessary 10 years from now, since all the problems of the world will be solved?
Well, one of the ideas that I have toyed with this year is putting a death clause into the ARC covenant, because maybe we shouldn't be here in 15 years. Because an organization can transmute badly as it ages. It's the typical pattern, right? That's the rise of the evil tyrannical king and the occupation of the organization by predators and parasites as it becomes successful. It's absolutely what's happened with the universities, and it's the typical destination of most organizations. How do you mitigate against that? Decentralization helps, and so I think instead of building a larger convention, I don't know if we'll go any larger than this convention. It loses its coherence after a certain scale. We are going to build subsidiary organizations in a number of different countries. We started already in Australia and in Germany, and there's a number of countries where that's well along its developmental pathway. And so that's one way of extending the range of effect and the dissemination of the principles without increasing the centralization or demanding that we move to 20,000, say, for a convention. That'll be a specific target of focus for ARC in the upcoming year. And I think that'll work. 15 years in the future is so far that I can't even imagine what it'll be like. Like my horizon, I don't know what your horizon is like now, but my horizon at the moment is about maximum of a year and more like 6 months. That's about the only amount of time I can foresee with any degree of clarity or stability, because everything is in such flux. And so we'll plan out the next convention and our tentative plans for the next year, but we're going to have to play it by ear after that. I mean, how fast the narrative tide has turned in the last few years. A lot of the principles that we've been attempting to communicate were taboo to even speak about even a year and a half ago. And now they're much more on the cutting edge. If we're lucky, in 10 years, they'll be passé,
They probably will be passé, because in this convention, we stress responsibility and responsible citizenship, which assumes that people fix their own problems, that you don't wait for a convention to tell you to fix your problem. So I don't know where we will be in 15 years, but I'm very, very optimistic. And I thank you very much for making me optimistic and everyone else. Yes. Thank you, Jordan.
Yes, well, it's good to see you, Ayaan, and it's very good of you to speak here, and good luck with your media endeavors as well. I hope that you meet with the success that, been characteristic of almost everything that you've done. It's very well timed, and
you inspired courage, and you inspired me through ARC, you and Philippa and Paul, to do this. And this is the goal of this is to encourage young people to be brave enough to stand up for their own legacy.
Yep, great. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how it unfolds. Very nice to talk with you.